There's a detail about charging a Tesla at home that almost no one mentions before purchase, and which completely surprises many owners in the first few weeks of use. Most people imagine that you just need to get home, plug the car into any outlet in the garage, and wake up the next day with a full battery, like a giant cell phone patiently waiting for morning to arrive. But the reality of home charging is quite different from this comfortable image that salespeople and advertisements usually present to those about to enter the world of electric vehicles. And the starting point of this story begins with a seemingly simple technical choice, but one that practically defines the entire daily experience of driving a Tesla. This decision involves 3 charging levels, each with its own logic, and only one of them actually works at the pace of real life. The first level, known as Level 1, is the cable that comes in the box when the car is delivered. It connects to a standard 120-volt outlet, the same kind you use to plug in a light bulb or a coffee maker in the United States. It seems practical, it seems sufficient, it seems to solve the problem, but the numbers tell a very different story. This cable delivers between 3 and 5 miles of range for every hour it's plugged in, which means that recharging a completely discharged Model Y Juniper battery can take more than 60 hours straight. That's not 60 minutes. That's not a long night's sleep. It's literally 2.5 days with the car immobile, stuck to the wall. For someone who drives every day, this scenario simply doesn't add up in terms of time. Level 2, on the other hand, operates on a completely different range, using a 240-volt electrical installation similar to that which powers clothes dryers, electric ovens, and central air conditioning. With a current of 48 amps and a power of 11.5 kilowatts, this standard delivers between 30 and 44 miles of range per hour of charging. The leap is gigantic and definitively changes the driver's relationship with the car. A practically empty battery is fully charged again in between 4 and 8 hours. That is, exactly the interval of a normal night's sleep. The car is plugged in when the house quiets down and is ready for any journey when the day begins. Without calculations, without extra planning, without that silent tension of checking the percentage before leaving. The difference between these two scenarios lies not only in the charging speed, but in the behavior each demands of the car owner. Those who rely on Level 1 need to think about distances before each trip, ration routes, leave the car plugged in almost continuously, and still hope that no unforeseen event requires more autonomy than that outlet can replenish. Those with Level 2 simply forget that the car needs to be refueled, because it recharges itself while the house sleeps. It's a paradigm shift comparable to the difference between washing clothes by hand and having an automatic washing machine working while the family goes about its routine. The technical numbers are interesting, but the real impact lies in the mental freedom that the right system provides. The equipment that brings Level 2 charging to life in a garage has a well-known name among those researching the subject: the Tesla Wall Connector. This device is sold directly by the manufacturer for $420, a surprisingly modest price considering the brand's technological reputation. There's also a popular alternative manufactured by Emporia called the Smart EV Charger, which costs between $429 and $449, offering similar smart features and compatibility with any electric vehicle on the market. At first glance, these prices might make any buyer breathe a sigh of relief and imagine that the transition to home charging will be a small expense. The problem is that this perception lasts only until the electrician enters the garage to give a real estimate. The real truth of this equation is that the equipment itself represents only a tiny fraction of the total investment. What truly weighs on your wallet is the electrical installation necessary for that charger to function safely and within regulations. A dedicated 240-volt line needs to be run from the main electrical panel of the house to the point where the car is parked, passing through walls, slabs, ceilings, and, in many cases, outdoor areas exposed to rain and sun. Each meter of cable thick enough to handle 48 amps has a cost. Each circuit breaker specific to this type of load has another, and the skilled labor to do all this, while following the local electrical code, makes the final bill far less friendly than the device promised. The figures collected from real-world installations in the United States paint a fairly clear picture of this reality. The median cost is $1,096 when the house already has sufficient electrical capacity and the panel doesn't need to be modified. This value rises to $2,740 when an electrical panel upgrade is necessary, a common situation in older homes built with less capacity than modern life demands. And then there are truly complex cases, where the bill can range from $2,000 to $6,000 depending on the specific conditions of the property. Most homeowners end up paying somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500 in total. The factors that push a budget toward the higher end of this scale are quite specific and, more often than not, completely invisible to those who have never dealt with heavy electrical installations. Older houses often have undersized wiring, panels with little load capacity, and structures that make it difficult to run new cables without breaking walls or tearing expensive finishes. Garages separate from the main body of the house, require the electrician to bury conduits, cross gardens, go around sidewalks, and respect minimum distances from other installations, multiplying meters of cable and hours of work. Outdoor installations, exposed to the elements, demand materials with reinforced protection against moisture, ultraviolet rays, and abrupt temperature variations. And each of these items carries its own price. There is also an important regional difference that few consider before closing a deal with any electrician. The cost of labor varies drastically between states, cities, and even neighborhoods within the same metropolitan area, and the requirement for licenses, municipal inspections, and technical reports adds extra layers of expense that don't appear in any manufacturer's promotional video. Some regions require the hiring of professionals with specific certifications for work with electric vehicles. Others require fire department inspections before final energization, and there are still locations where the utility company needs to formally authorize the increase in the property's load. All of this is factored into the final calculation, and each of these steps has the potential to transform a simple installation into a bureaucratic journey that directly affects the profile of those who live in rented accommodation. Renters face an obstacle that goes far beyond money and rarely comes up in conversations about electric cars. Installing a 240-volt circuit involves permanent alterations to the property, messing with the internal wiring of the walls, adding circuit breakers to the main panel, and, in many cases, requiring structural modifications that remain permanently on the property. No reasonable landlord authorizes this type of intervention without robust contractual guarantees, detailed technical reports, and some form of compensation for the investment being made in their home. The tenant, in turn, is rarely interested in paying thousands of dollars for an improvement that will remain on the property when the lease ends. This equation simply doesn't add up for either side. The result of this contractual trap is a particularly cruel scenario for renters. They end up exclusively tied to level 1 charging, that slow 120-volt cable that delivers between 3 and 5 miles per hour, and which has already been described as impractical for any minimally demanding routine. Since this pace doesn't meet daily needs, the renter ends up depending on the supercharger for serious charging, traveling to commercial stations, waiting for the car to charge in public places, and paying much higher rates than they would at home. It's a combination that brings together, at the same time, the worst financial cost and the worst practical convenience that the ecosystem offers, without any of the advantages that made electric vehicles attractive in the first place. This situation places a huge segment of the population in an awkward position within the electric vehicle market. Young families, professionals at the beginning of their careers, residents of large urban centers, and anyone who hasn't yet bought their own home automatically fall into this category. regardless of income or a genuine desire to adopt the technology. The car remains technically accessible, the price tag remains attractive, but the home charging ecosystem remains out of reach for reasons that have nothing to do with financial capacity. It's an invisible barrier, rarely mentioned in sales materials, and only reveals itself when the person already has the car keys in hand and starts planning the first week of actual use. There is also an important temporal detail in this story, something that increases the weight of the decision for those evaluating the purchase now. The federal tax credit known as Code 30C offers a 30% reduction on the installation cost, limited to $1,000 per residential unit, and serves as one of the few real ways to alleviate the necessary electrical investment. This benefit is scheduled to expire, with the deadline falling on June 30, 2026. Any installation completed and energized after that date automatically forfeits the right to the discount, turning that small tax relief into an increasingly narrow window as the calendar progresses. This time frame puts additional pressure on decisions that were already complex by nature. Homeowners need to decide whether to move up the installation to secure the benefit, even if they haven't yet bought the car, or whether to wait for a better understanding of the market and miss out on that portion of the savings. Tenants need to assess whether it's worthwhile to negotiate with their landlords now, share costs, offer a contract extension in exchange for authorization, or simply accept that the ideal scenario is out of their reach for now. Each of these paths has concrete financial implications, and the window to choose between them shrinks with each passing month, making the next part of this analysis particularly revealing for those who are still hesitant. The question that naturally arises after so many alarming figures is whether all this electrical investment really pays off in the long run. And the answer requires a direct comparison between the two worlds of charging. Charging the car at home costs, on average, between 13 and 16 cents per kilowatt hour, depending on the region, the local utility company, and the current residential energy contract. Charging at a supercharger, on the other hand, costs between 25 and 35 cents per kilowatt hour, practically double the price charged at home. This difference seems small when observed in isolation, but it silently accumulates with each recharge, each week, and each month of vehicle use. Applying these figures to the actual battery of the Juniper Model Y, which has an approximate capacity of 75 kilowatt-hours, the calculation begins to take on a concrete dimension. Each full recharge done at home instead of at a supercharger saves between $6.75 and $16.50, depending on the rates involved at the two extremes of the comparison. Those who drive at the average American rate, fully recharging the battery several times a month, accumulate annual savings ranging from $337 to $825. This range is not theoretical. It appears in the real-life accounts of owners who migrated from exclusively public charging to home charging and began to notice the difference in their family budget. With these annual figures in hand, the calculation of the return on investment time begins to take shape. In a simple installation, one that falls within the range of $1,500 to $2,500 already described above, the payback period is between 2 and 4 years. This interval is considered quite reasonable within the logic of any home improvement, especially something that has an estimated lifespan of more than a decade and continues to generate savings after the initial return. This means that, from the 5th year onwards, each home recharge represents net money saved in the homeowner's pocket, without any outstanding financial obligations related to the equipment or the electrical installation that supports it. The story changes considerably when the installation falls into that more complex category, with costs nearing $5,000 or even $7,000 in total. In these scenarios, the payback time extends to something between 7 and 9 years, an interval that begins to dangerously approach the natural time frame for changing cars or moving house. Families who move frequently, professionals with lives that move between cities, or people who usually upgrade their vehicle every 5 years, may end the usage cycle without having fully recovered the investment made in the infrastructure. This is the type of detail that completely changes the financial analysis and that rarely appears in the simplified calculators offered by the manufacturers themselves or by enthusiastic dealers. There is yet another layer of savings that escapes most public analysis on the subject. Several American utilities offer rates known as time of use, which charge much lower rates for consumption during the early morning hours, precisely the period when an electric car is plugged in at home while the family sleeps. These nighttime rates reach 8 or 10 cents per kilowatt hour, further reducing the cost of each home recharge and widening the financial gap compared to commercial superchargers. Those who can program their car to charge exclusively during these hours add between $200 and $400 in annual savings to the calculation. And this intelligent optimization paves the way for the next element of this equation, which involves larger and much more expensive batteries. The name Powerwall often comes up at this point in the conversation, and many people believe it's a more powerful version of a home charger, a kind of premium upgrade from the traditional wall connector. This interpretation is completely wrong and leads many buyers to invest thousands of dollars in equipment that wasn't designed for the problem they're trying to solve. The Powerwall is actually a large stationary battery installed in a wall of the house or garage with a nominal capacity of 13.5 kilowatt hours and an internal 11.5 kilowatt inverter. Its function is to store electrical energy, not to accelerate the charging of a vehicle connected to the home network. The cost of this equipment is in itself a separate chapter in the financial analysis of any interested homeowner. An installed and operational unit costs between $12,000 and $14,500, a value that includes the device, the inverter, specialized cables, the work of a certified electrician, and the necessary integrations with the main electrical panel of the house. For direct comparison, this investment is equivalent to approximately 30 times the price of the conventional wall connector, which costs only $420, and completely solves the issue of home charging. The difference is not marginal, it is stratospheric, and requires a very clear justification to make any sense within the budget of an average family. There is also a recent change in the tax landscape that directly affects those considering this purchase now. The 30% federal credit that applied to residential energy storage systems and which significantly reduced the final cost of the Powerwall expired on December 31, 2025. Anyone who buys and installs the equipment after that date has definitively lost the right to this discount, which puts several $1,000s back into the consumer's pocket without any compensation. This is the type of regulatory detail that profoundly alters the financial calculation of any residential project involving storage, and which few salespeople usually mention during the initial presentation. Despite this less than encouraging scenario, there are 3 specific situations where the Powerwall truly makes economic and practical sense. The first involves homes that already have solar panels installed.